Respiratory Distress in the Newborn by Dr. Nishit. Learning objectives of this video: understanding epidemiology and physiology of respiratory distress in newborn, history, clinical features, differential diagnosis and treatment of respiratory distress in newborn. You got a call from the neonatal unit. There is a delivery of a full-term male newborn with respiratory distress. Immediately you have the differentials running in your mind. What could be the probable cause of this respiratory distress? To proceed further, you will know the relevant history for the case, which includes the gestational age, whether it is a preterm, term or post-term child, the mode of delivery, whether it is a normal vaginal delivery or a C-section. If C-section is done, whether it is done in spinal anesthesia or general anesthesia, maternal risk factors like leaking per vaginal or rupture of membrane for more than 24 hours, amniotic fluid, whether it is clear or meconium strained, and whether there is antenatal steroid use for protecting the baby. So, you start examining the baby and see whether there is respiratory distress or not. To evaluate respiratory distress, there must be tachypnea, which means respiratory rate of more than 60 per minute. There should be retraction and expiratory grunt, cyanosis, decreased air entry. There could be head bobbing and respiratory failure. To make things easier, there is a scoring system called Silverman-Anderson scoring system, which has 5 criteria, which is upper chest retraction, lower chest retraction, xiphoid retraction, nasal flaring and expiratory grunt. So today we are going to demonstrate you a normal respiratory pattern of a newborn. First we have to look at the respiratory rate. In respiratory rate we have to count the abdomen going up and then down. See, first it is going down and then it's going up. Normal respiratory rate of newborn is less than 60. So we'll count till 1 minute and the respiratory rate will be less than 60. Second, we have to see whether the pattern of respiration is regular or irregular. It is a regular respiration pattern. In irregular respiratory pattern, there is seesaw breathing. The abdomen goes up and the chest goes down, while here it is going synchronized way of respiration. Third, we have to see nasal flaring. If there is a respiratory distress, there will be nasal flaring. Here you can see there is no nasal flaring. The baby is breathing normally. Fourth, we have to see chest retraction. Chest retraction is of 3 types: upper chest retraction, lower chest retraction and xiphoid retraction. In this child there is no retraction. Last, we have to see the skin color and the CRT. In skin color, you can see this is the normal skin color of the newborn. There is no cyanosis over here. The normal skin color is pink. And last is the CRT. CRT is to check whether the child is in shock. We check the CRT on bony prominence. We press the sternum for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds and the skin color goes back to normal within 3 seconds. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and the skin color goes back in less than 3 seconds. So now we have finished the normal respiratory pattern of the newborn. This is a video of a newborn showing xiphoid retraction. Before proceeding further, we should know the physiological changes which happens in the respiratory system of a newborn after birth. There is transition from alveolar fluid to alveolar air. The breathing becomes regular. There is decreased pulmonary venous resistance and increased pulmonary blood flow. The differential diagnosis of respiratory distress in newborn. The common differentials include transient tachypnea of newborn, neonatal pneumonia, respiratory distress syndrome, and meconium aspiration syndrome. Transient tachypnea of newborn. It accounts for 60% of the cases of respiratory distress. The risk factors include, most common is cesarean section in a post-term male child born of a diabetic mother. Symptoms include tachypnea, which means respiratory rate more than 60 per minute, nasal flaring, grunting. The symptom starts soon after birth, but symptoms starts resolving within 48 to 72 hours of life. And if the symptoms resolve within 6 hours, it is called delayed transition. This is an X-ray of transient tachypnea of newborn showing fluid in the interlobar fissure. This is also an X-ray of transient tachypnea of newborn showing sunburst pattern. The treatment is mainly supportive, minimum therapeutic intervention is done, and you have to deliver oxygen therapy, which could be non-invasive. Neonatal pneumonia. Risk factors include prematurity, chorioamnitis, rupture of membrane more than 24 hours. The causes include Group B streptococcal infection, E. coli, Klebsiella, or herpes simplex infection. The symptoms of neonatal pneumonia is difficulty in breathing, poor feeding, tachypnea or hair hunger, tachycardia, cyanosis. Investigations include increased WBC count, and on chest X-ray you will see air bronchogram. In this X-ray we can see bilateral alveolar densities. The treatment include oxygen therapy, IV antibiotics, which are mainly started ampicillin and gentamicin, and if needed, if the baby is in shock, we could start vasopressor support. Late onset pneumonia. Late onset pneumonia is generally hospital acquired and is due to chlamydial infection. Respiratory distress syndrome. Risk factors include decreased pulmonary surfactant and prematurity. Symptoms of respiratory distress syndrome is grunting. Most common symptom is grunting. It is due to auto PEEP generation by the newborn to keep the airway open. Second is chest retraction. Symptoms increase as hours of life progress. This is an X-ray of respiratory distress syndrome of newborn showing white out lung and ground glass opacities. The treatment include positive pressure ventilation, which may be by CPAP support, and surfactant therapy. In case of CPAP failure, newborn ventilator is used. This is an image showing surfactant being administered to a newborn. Here, the technique used is INSURE, which include intubate, administer surfactant, and extubate. Here you could see the improvement on chest X-ray after administration of surfactant. Meconium aspiration syndrome. Risk factors: a post-term small for gestational age child having fetal hypoxia. There is uneven obstruction and gas trapping and deactivation of surfactant. Clinical features include meconium staining of the umbilical cord. There is tachypnea, retraction, nasal flaring, grunting, and cyanosis. The symptoms develop immediately after birth or could be delayed. This is a diagram showing the pathophysiology of meconium aspiration syndrome. There is fetal hypoxia causing release of meconium in the amniotic fluid, which is later aspirated by the newborn in the lung, causing mechanical obstruction, and there is air trapping in some alveoli, which cause uneven ventilation and later alveolar rupture. There is also surfactant inactivation, which causes atelectasis. In total, there is fetal hypoxia and acidosis, which later causes pulmonary hypertension. This is an X-ray of meconium aspiration syndrome showing diffuse patchy obstruction, hyperinflation, and flattened diaphragm. The treatment include intrapartum care, which is to proceed with initial steps of neonatal resuscitation, avoid endotracheal suctioning. In postnatal care, deliver oxygen by hood or CPAP, and in case of significant hypoxia, you have to use a ventilator, inhaled nitric oxide, or extracorporeal membranous oxygenation. Other causes of respiratory distress in newborn includes persistent pulmonary hypertension, pneumothorax, congenital heart disease, congenital diaphragmatic hernia, and congenital lung defects. So now let's discuss about some case scenarios. Scenario number 1. A baby born by caesarean section at term gestation of a diabetic mother presents to you at 2 hours of life. He has a respiratory rate of 80 per minute with mild intercostal retraction and oxygen saturation of 90% on room air. His peripheries are warm and pink, and on auscultation, coarse crackles are heard. A differential diagnosis of transient tachypnea of newborn is made. Management: put the baby under the radiant warmer and delivered oxygen to the baby by hood at 30% of FiO2. With minimal intervention, the child conditions improves within 48 to 72 hours of life, and on auscultation, fluid in the fissure is seen. Scenario number 2. A baby born at 28 weeks of gestation by normal vaginal delivery develops respiratory distress soon after birth. There is lack of antenatal steroid administration. His Silverman-Anderson score is 9, and on chest X-ray, ground glass opacities is seen. Treatment is early institution of CPAP therapy at 5 cm of H2O with target SpO2 of 90 to 95%. This is a CPAP machine. It has a blender which blends oxygen and the air, and a humidifier for continuous supply of warm humidified air. It has a pressure generator for positive pressure in the circuit, and lastly there is a patient interface nasal cannula to connect CPAP circuit to the neonatal airway. In cases of CPAP failure, you have to use a ventilator. The image shown is a image of a ventilator. CPAP failure includes decreased respiratory drive, and in ABG the PaO2 value is less than 50, the PaCO2 value is more than 60, the pH is less than 7.2, and in cases of surfactant replacement therapy. To summarize the video, we discussed respiratory distress in newborn. The common differentials are respiratory distress syndrome, transient tachypnea of newborn, early onset pneumonia, and meconium aspiration syndrome. In respiratory distress syndrome, the child is premature, there is lack of antenatal steroid use, onset is soon after birth, progress till 48 to 72 hours of life, and on X-ray, ground glass opacity is seen. In transient tachypnea of newborn, the baby is late preterm, born by caesarean section, onset is soon after birth, there is very little oxygen requirement, and on X-ray there is hyperinflated lung and perihilar streaking. In early onset pneumonia, maternal risk factors are positive such as chorioamnitis. Onset is soon after birth. We have to use IV antibiotic and deliver oxygen therapy to the child, and on X-ray homogeneous opacities are seen bilaterally. In meconium aspiration syndrome, there is meconium aspiration by the child, there is meconium staining of the umbilical cord, and there is hyperinflated chest, and on X-ray patchy atelectasis is seen. Thank you. Please share, like, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos on interesting pediatrics topics. Thank you.